And then what'd he say? And then what you do? Ooh, girl, I would have died.
It is the only food that koalas eat. They have no natural predator.
No way! Stop it! Oh my.
The word marsupial is from the
I know! Yeah, what?
breeding.
Oh, I'm just making some milkshakes. Milkshake?
Paws with claws adapted for climbing in the country of Australia.
Watch your show on any TV in your house with Iris, the new HD multi-room DVR from Rev TV. Start watching in one room and pick up right where you left off in another. Call to get Iris in your house today.
Good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned into MB12 Weekend, broadcasting from Cable 12 Studios on Robinson Road. Coming up tonight in news, an advocacy group calling again for an end to violence and crime. The Police Staff Association says low wages raises the temptation for corruption. Female lawmakers band together on the gender equality issue, plus tips for new moms. I'm Paige McCartney. We've got those stories and more straight ahead on MB12 Weekend. Welcome once again to MB12. Following a week of bloodshed in New Providence, members of families of all murder victims are calling for the violence to stop. This as MB12 and the Nassau Guardian records reveal murders are up. Our Jasmine Brown has details.
Despite an overall drop in crime for the first part of 2014 compared to the same time period in 2013, murders and violent crime still remain high. Records compiled by our news team indicate murders increased by 12% between January 1st and August 15th, 2014, compared to the same period in 2013. There were 68 murders recorded during this period, compared to the 76 murders recorded for the year so far. 11 people were murdered in January, 8 in February, 9 in March, 12 in April, 16 in May, 7 in June, and 6 in July. 7 people have been murdered so far this month. Since Sunday, 5 people, 2 women, and 3 men were killed. The most recent victim, who was wanted for questioning in connection with 2 recent murders, was found dead on the side of a church on a dirt road. While on the scene of the most recent murder, Superintendent Paul Roll, head of the Central Detective Unit, said police were concerned about the rise in violence. Roll said, quote, "We in law enforcement are always concerned, whether we have 1 murder or whether we have 4. We would hope that we don't have any, but the reality is you have persons who are of the view that they should settle their disputes among themselves." It's something families of all murder victims President Candy Gibson agrees with. Gibson says FOAM continues to counsel the families of murder victims. She says the bloodshed continues to tear families apart.
Families are hurting, families are grieving, and then, like the last house we've been to, the mother got killed and she left 4 kids, and that in itself, it hurts, because the youngest, I think they said, was 4 years old. Would you tell a 4-year-old that her mommy is not coming back home? I feel like, someone has to care somewhere. I know what's so sad about all this. All the children on both sides have to go to school. In some cases, you have them going to the same school. So at the end of the day, this person daddy up there for this murder, okay, but then you kill this person's family. You go to school, my child go to school. What we saying? And if both issues are not addressed, that's going to be a few of the ongoing fun. That's the problem.
Given the recent spike in murder, she adds that the violence must stop and it must be a joint effort.
And we just plead right now for y'all calm down that beastly attitude, because at the end of the day, the accused, the person who doing these acts, they have children. The victims have children too.
Reporting for NB12 Weekend, I'm Jasmine Brown.
While police are tonight reporting that they've arrested 2 men in connection with a recent murder, police say officers of the Flying Squad unit were acting on intelligence when they took into custody a 23-year-old man of Cordo Avenue and a 20-year-old man of 2nd Street yesterday. The pair is being questioned in connection with the murder of Ryan Smith. Smith was gunned down on Sumner Street on August 12th. Smith was one of 4 murder victims killed within just 12 hours this week. Police are asking members of the public with any information on these incidents to contact them. And it's been 2 years since a memorial wall for murder victims was erected at New Covenant Baptist Church. Since then, the retired senior pastor, Bishop Simeon Hall, says the number of names has nearly tripled. The wall was established in August 2012, starting out with only 70 names. Today, that number has increased to more than 200. Bishop Hall said the wall is an impressive yet sorrowful reminder of the serious issue of crime in the country.
We're well over near 200 names. Now, some people did not respond to the memorial wall, as we called it, of murdered persons, because they didn't want to reopen that wound again.
He adds that families of murder victims continue to seek solace, and he says memorializing their loved ones is one of the ways they can do so. He encouraged other community leaders to set up walls in their own communities.
It's interesting when I heard, again, Minister Mitchell talking about a memorial wall in Fox Hill for those persons who were murdered. It's the same concept. I think communities should memorialize persons from a particular community, and on the one hand it helps the grieving family, and on the other hand hopefully it will cause people to rethink participating in murder. I think politicians in particular, since they have the last word with making the law, should do a better job in sending a clear message to would-be criminals.
An executive chairman of the Police Staff Association, Dwight Smith, says to prevent corruption on the police force, government must increase the salaries of officers below the rank of inspector. And in an interview with NB12, Smith said members of his association are still waiting for the issue of gratuities and pensions to be settled. Smith said lower-ranking officers simply cannot survive on their current salaries.
The cost of living is going up tremendously. And there is always this issue of that, and that is the concern today. What we're trying to do as an association is to limit police officers from finding themselves into problems, and for them to have an excuse or to blame it on, sufficient monies. It must be that the police officers and discipline forces, those persons, their salary must be to a point where there's little or no room for corruption. That is the aim and the objective of the association.
Smith said the association has been lobbying for too long for increased salaries, and officers are fed up. He said as it stands, more than 120 officers who have recently moved beyond the recruit level are still making just $1,500 a month.
These officers are frustrated. They come into our office on a daily basis. They're not only just here in New Providence, they're here also in Grand Bahama. These are serious issues. $1,500. My God, time is ever ready to go to rent or their mortgages. What do you think that officer has left? And we have to safeguard our youth because the majority of these persons are young. We don't like to see people being brought before the courts or losing their jobs. That's something the association doesn't do as a police officer. We want to deal with that issue. If you have a happy police force or a happy security force, I think that the professionalism and the way they handle the individuals will actually change tremendously.
Smith added that the officers have to feel that the work they're doing is worth it, but many don't, considering their low wages.
We understand that we have crime to fight, and we want to fight it. And I think when we're ready seeing officers dying in fighting it. But what we want to do is that when the officer does that, he feels that it's worth doing. And that's the bottom line. I mean, we all work for that. We're still on this issue of promotions. Why are we taking so long on promotions? Mostly in the public sector, if there are promotions, you will know when there's promotions. We've already, the commissioner did a wonderful job. Him and the EMT team, they did a wonderful job in finding the best individuals suited for whatever vacancies exist in the ranks of the force for promotion. And yet, today, there's no promotion as yet.
And a promotional exercise was carried out earlier this year, according to Smith. However, he said recommendations have yet to be implemented. Smith said the Commissioner of Police should be just as swift with promotions as he is with discipline on the force. And a local civic advocacy group had a motorcade this morning in protest of the government's plans to implement value-added tax, claiming that greater government transparency and accountability are needed ahead of the tax's introduction. Just about 24 vehicles paraded through the city center for the I Ain't for VAT motorcade led by Citizens for a Better Bahamas. A statement from the group said its position on VAT is founded in the belief that no tax reform can be effective without good governance. Despite shifting attitudes towards the impending tax from other citizens groups, including the Coalition for Responsible Taxation, Citizens for a Better Bahamas remains staunchly opposed to VAT. The government is set to implement VAT on January 1st, 2015 at a rate of 7.5%. The most recent draft of the VAT legislation generated considerable controversy after it was revealed that the tax would affect breadbasket items and private health care, among other goods and services.